Melanie Talks TV. I'm Melanie, and today I'm back to talk about Poker Face Season 2, Episode 4, The Taste of Human Blood. This might go up there as one of the most absurd episodes of Poker Face and maybe television altogether over the last couple of years. But my big question is, after this episode, we have our friend Good Buddy there on the radio talking to Charlie, voiced by Steve Buscemi. But is that going to be the new ongoing story here? Something that's been a hallmark of Poker Face is the fact that Charlie has always been on the run. There's been something that drives her from city to city, place to place, solving all these different cases. But now that she doesn't have the mob on her heels, she's just free-flowing. She says she's learning to like this lifestyle. But my question for you is, does this show need some sort of ongoing serialization, or does it just work as this semi-anthology type of format with the case of the week murder? I would like to see there be a little bit more of a story woven throughout this season. There are 12 episodes. I am curious if Steve Buscemi's voice will come into play at some point. Perhaps that will contribute to some sort of overarching story here. Are you okay if this is just an anthology case of the week, or did you like it more when there was a little bit more dramatic tension with Charlie getting chased every week? I personally would like to see more of an ongoing story. I think that has worked for the show, but also at one point, does it get to be too much? As I've referenced before with only murders in the building, right? How many murders can there be in one building? And like Charlie, I mean, how many times can one person get inserted into a murder case or an investigation? But along with that, how many times can one person get chased by different people? Maybe it's not believable for her to have somebody on her heels at this point. So anyway, that was one of my biggest observations. I guess I've been kind of waiting for there to be some other shoe to drop that's gonna light a fire under Charlie and keep her moving from city to city, instead of just doing it for the sake of being on the road and living that lifestyle. What do you think? Be sure to drop it in the comments. And before I get more into this episode, please be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. I am covering some other TV shows, finishing up The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu, Your Friends and Neighbors on Apple TV+, and coming in June, The Buccaneers on Apple TV+, and then the summer I Turned Pretty and Dexter in July. So stick with me for more TV talk. But for now, let's dive into this absolutely insane and absurd episode of Poker Face on Peacock. Get her done! You have the right to S your pants. Are you even kidding me with Kumail Nanjiani playing this Gator Joe? Unbelievable. Stick with me for the end of the video because I will update my guest star and episode rankings, and you can see exactly where I think Kumail as Gator Joe falls into that. And actually, he gave an interview with Variety about working with an alligator, and here's what he had to say. As he jumped into the role, he started having weird dreams revolving alligators. He said, I wanted to have a real connection with this alligator, and like robots, I think alligators are terrifying and hideous. So I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. Nanjiani said, I had this dream that we had this kid, and the kid was this hideous mixture of my cat and an alligator. I remember looking at it in the dream and feeling such love for it, I swear. Then the next day, I worked with these alligators, and I loved them. So Daisy was in fact played by a robotic animatronic alligator. And something that I observed during this episode was like, how are these people getting this close to an alligator? I don't care if this is an alligator that has the power to hypnotize you with its eyes in some weird Buddhist alligator situation. I don't care. I would never get that close to an alligator, even if it is allegedly trained and on, Valium or whatever it is that he is giving this alligator for her anxiety. Seriously? Like, if I was Charlie in on this mission, I do not think I would have put my head anywhere near that alligator. But this episode leans into the absurd. Not only the absurd, but the Florida of it all. Florida is known, of course, for having these stereotypes of crazy things happening. Like the police chief says, the Florida man memes just keep coming. And nothing against Florida. I've been there before. I've got friends and relatives that live there. But we all know that Florida sometimes has some pretty crazy things happening. And this episode didn't just lean into the Florida. It full on fell over onto Florida, landed there, and stayed there and smeared itself all across the state. I would like to know who came up with this idea. The Flopa Copas. Are you kidding me? And I mean, this episode started out with Fran responding to a call of a woman holding a shotgun or rifle on this guy who snuck into her house. And she's like, hey, you got any peanut oil to kind of loosen him up, lube him up, and get him out of there? But the poor guy was just breaking in for braces for his kids. And first of all, relatable, my son is getting braces for his second phase right now. And let me tell you, that stuff is not cheap. But the fact that we have a meth gator in this episode, wild times. And how on earth did Fran think it was actually a good idea to feed an alligator meth? And the fact that she was going to be luring this alligator out? All I'm going to say is a rule: don't put your head near alligators. Don't give alligators meth, even if you're trying to have it devour a body to cover up a murder that you did in fact commit. So this whole thing starts out because Fran is nominated for a Flopa Copa. And the first year at the awards, she didn't really care very much about it. It wasn't a thing. But 6 years later, after Gator Joe keeps beating her out every year, you'd better believe she's going to get her hair done and go in there like she deserves to win. One of the funniest things was there's a banner in the background showing all of the nominees. It shows Fran, it shows a couple other guys, and it shows Gator Joe. Fran has this laundry list of items of all of the amazing things that she's done. I'm going to put the picture up here. She rescued 17 women and children from an abandoned semi-truck, coordinated the third largest fentanyl bust in Florida state history, volunteer of the year at the Panhandle Retirement Community. And you know what Gator Joe's thing says? 12.8 million followers on TikTok. We're just giving this man Flopa Copa awards because he has an alligator. That first year, he had Daisy in this cute little carrier, and it was a cute shtick, but now, 6 years later, not only does he have this absurd gator juice and talks about alligator laxatives, but he's got 2 catchphrases, and I think that bothers Fran more than anything. He's got the gator done, and you've got the right to S your pants. The catchphrases really seem to bother her. I mean, she brings it up a couple of times. And you know what? That would probably bother me too, especially if you're one of the good ones. And that is bookended in this episode with the police chief saying at the beginning of the episode she's one of the good ones, and then at the end. And as we know how this episode wrapped up, Fran got away with it. She turned herself in, showing that in fact she really is one of the good ones, but in some self-induced karma, she does commit herself to giving up her gun and her badge and going to this alligator farm where Charlie was working, scooping up the alligator feces. And you know what? Hey, she might get volunteer of the year, so maybe Fran will finally get the recognition that she deserves, even if it's not a Flopa Copa. In this episode, we don't see Charlie Cale for 19 minutes in. I've been clocking that in each episode, and this is the longest one so far. They really took their time setting the table with this Flopa Copa convention. And the host is Matt Passmore. He's playing himself. And you know what? He actually did star in the TV show The Glades. I had no idea that was even a show. Probably wasn't a hit as he touted it to be. But him playing himself in that role with his fancy accent sounding all elegant at one of the maybe trashiest award ceremonies of all time. The irony in that, fantastic. Other absurd things about the Flopa Copas, the bands they had playing there, Yolo Tomasi and the Rude Boys in Blue. Love it. And the fact that they have literal real weapons and drugs just sitting there in piles, and the guy's like, hey, nothing to see here. It's a room full of cops. No big deal. Nothing's gonna happen. Well, as we know, something did in fact happen. But what got me the most might have been the police chief when he noted those girls who are all up in the cops' business. You know what they're called? Pig porkers. That's right. Cop groupies, pig porkers. Never heard that term, but now that I have heard it, cannot unhear. Really funny stuff. I would like to commend the writers on this episode for coming up with this nonsensical stuff that really hit on the comedy front. I mean, the show is a comedy at heart, but this one, not quite as dark as some of the others. Almost every single line of dialogue, every single scene had something that was just pure ridiculousness, and I think it worked. Now, we know that Gator Joe had those glasses on, which is what ended up filming Fran in the trophy room when she found out that Gator Joe had won again that year. And the glasses did come back into play, of course. How absurd, but how insane is it that Gator Joe compared himself to Michael Jordan. I'm sorry, but a flopacopa is just not the same thing as a professional NBA player, legend really, getting a certain number of awards. Just no level of comparison, no basis whatsoever. And once Fran figures out that she did not win, she hatches a plan to put some of the alligator laxative inside of Gator Joe's gator juice. And she asks the other cop friend sitting at the table, how much is too much? First of all, how does any other person in the world know how much is too much or the right dosage of alligator laxative? I mean, I can see if you're asking somebody about, I don't know, B12 or vitamin D or a pretty common vitamin that people take, but alligator laxative? And then to write it on a napkin and for her to get it wrong, does she not have access to a phone? That was one thing where I really suspended disbelief. I mean, she could have probably pretty easily Googled it. And if she was having this plan, granted it was not to murder him, she probably shouldn't have told anybody, because obviously things did not work out as she anticipated, and Gator Joe obviously had too much and ended up dying. So that is what propelled Fran to get the alligator the meth and get Daisy into that bathroom to eat him. And you know what? Gator Joe had it coming. In the end credits, Gator Joe says that he ended up choosing Daisy over his fiance. You know what? Maybe you shouldn't have done that, Gator Joe. Anytime you introduce an alligator into the equation, especially as a pet, you are inherently putting yourself at risk. I mean, geez, we saw that in real life with Steve Irwin, unfortunately. Completely different situation, obviously, but there's an inherent risk when you're working with predators. And who is asking this man for autographs? Are you even kidding me? I kept saying that out loud during this episode, which I watched twice. I literally said out loud, are you even kidding me with all of this? And the first time I watched it, I thought, this is just ridiculous. I don't know if I'm in for it. But the more you look at it and take it at face value for what it is, which is essentially completely making fun of the state of Florida and everything in it. Oh, and another one-liner that I love, the police chief and saying, oh, Gator Joe's tiki-talkie. Tiki-talkie? I thought that was so cute, and it actually makes me want to start calling TikTok tiki-talkie. Older people are so cute. That reminds me of one of those Progressive commercials where the kids are becoming their parents. Tiki-talkie, love it. And the group of people who hatched this plan with Charlie in the first place over at the alligator farm where she happens to be volunteering or living or whatever she's doing there, they've freed some other animals and fine, fighting dogs, racehorses. But did you catch the donkey show donkeys? As somebody who lives in Southern California, very close to Tijuana, I didn't actually know that donkey shows were a real thing. People talk about donkey shows all the time. I don't know anybody who's ever seen one, or, if I do know someone who's seen one, maybe they're not talking about it because, let's face it, some pretty wild stuff. I'm not going to say exactly what a donkey show is. You can go and Google that yourself. The fact that they referenced donkey shows in here for animals that they've liberated, just insane. Out of control wild. Charlie had some really great one-liners in this episode as well when she notes the alligator cage doesn't have wheels. And she's like, hey guys, this is a cop convention. And they're like, yeah, duh. Like, what did you think the Flopacopas stood for? I had no idea what the Flopacopas stood for. In fact, is that even a real thing? I'm gonna go Google that now and get back to you. Okay, confirmed. Most definitely not a real thing. I didn't think so, but I just wanted to be sure. Since The Glades is apparently a real show and they reference that, you always gotta check, right? The janitor taking his mustache off when the cops are like, oh, sorry, cops only, when they're trying to hunt Daisy and figure out what they're gonna do. And he rips the mustache off and is like wielding a gun like, yeah, I'm a cop. The other guy who was guarding the drugs saying, we gotta go and ice that bee. Loved every single second of this alligator hunt. The alligator ends up getting away in the vents. And as luck would have it, Charlie and Fran both stumble upon it. And Charlie's starting to figure out and put the pieces together. She knew that Gator Joe had to run to the bathroom and that was not, in fact, a lie. And her and Fran take it upon themselves to actually take Daisy out of there for what Charlie thinks is to seemingly save Daisy and set her free in protected land. But this is where Charlie's special gift comes into play. Once she and Fran get there, Charlie realizes the plan is not to let Daisy go. In fact, Fran intends to kill that alligator. She wants to get the glasses. She does not want it coming back to haunt her. And again, we had another moment there at the end where she almost gets eaten by the alligator. Why are these people coming so close to the alligator? I think that's probably the one thing that really did bother me the most in this episode. I don't care if that alligator is on all the lorazepam in the world, whatever. Still not coming within like feet of an alligator. I don't know how many feet an alligator can actually pounce on you, but those little bees are fast, right? I mean, I'm not taking any chances. In fact, anytime I even go to Florida, I stay away from any shore that is not the ocean in fear of an alligator actually eating me. So the alligator part of it all and the proximity did not buy that. I can't picture anybody coming this close to an alligator. I mean, am I obsessing over this for the wrong reasons? Like, what do you guys think? But since Charlie figured out that the alligator was framed and eventually puts the pieces together that Fran was lying and she was in fact the one responsible for Gator Joe's death. For a quick second, I'm like, is she gonna end up shooting Charlie? But as I mentioned in the first review for the season, Charlie's got layers and layers of plot armor. They are not going to kill her. She is Poker Face. She's the entire show. We've got 12 episodes this season. Still not sure if there will be a season 3, but like, no chance is anything going to happen to Charlie. We need her for the next episode. So in most situations where it seems like she is in peril, I think we can all safely assume that she's not. I mean, maybe she'll get injured along the way, end up in a hospital. That can open up a new storyline or something. But for the most part, Charlie's gonna get herself out of these predicaments and she's gonna solve the case every single time. So overall, I thought this episode was okay. Kumail Nanjiani nailed the Gator Joe role, and I like Kumail Nanjiani. He's great in whatever he's in. Liked him in Welcome to Chippendales and in the most recent season of Only Murders in the Building. Gaby Hoffmann as Fran was also fantastic. She started out as this innocent do-gooder type of cop, got herself into some trouble, and ended up taking her own karma, which accountability is really important, so I did like to see that for her character, and she seemed happy where she ended up. I was surprised that the police chief didn't end up pursuing this, but also not surprised at the same time because, as he said, this is the most Florida thing ever. They are going to have a field day with it. So a little bit of police corruption involved, but I mean, who could blame him? He was basically like, Daisy ate Gator Joe in air quotes, except it was more of like an air chomping. Loved that. And in the book ending I mentioned, he caps it out at the end and says, you know, Fran, you are one of the good ones. And that's how this episode started out. So despite the fact that, yes, she did accidentally murder somebody, Fran had a good heart. She was trying to do what was right. And she was going to put the alligator out of its misery, ended up, of course, not doing that, which allowed Charlie to have that little scene at the end where she's like, oh, hey, Daisy, remember me? I helped, get you free. And then the alligator starts chomping for her because, as we know, once an alligator has the taste of human blood, there is no stopping it. It's funny because in my last video, I was like, oh, hey, maybe we'll get some vampires. But nope, not the case. Let's talk rankings. At the end of every Poker Face video, I will be ranking the guest stars and also the episodes themselves. In terms of the episodes, I'm adding this as number 4. I'm going to keep my order from last week. The Game is Afoot, Last Looks, and Whack-A-Mole. And then The Taste of Human Blood is going to go at number 4 so far. I thought it was a great episode. I just really thought the first 3 of the season hit it a little bit harder. And the absurdity of this was great. I mean, don't get me wrong. And I'm curious to see where this one will end up by the end of the season. But so far, number 4 for me. What about you? All right, now my updated guest star list. Number 1, my favorite so far, obviously Cynthia Erivo. I don't know if that's going to change just based on the sheer fact that she played 5 characters in that first episode. I have Katie Holmes at number 2. I just loved her character Greta. I thought she was so endearing. And Giancarlo Esposito is in a close third. That character for him playing Fred, the funeral home director, could not have been more of a fit for him. That said, now number 4, I am bumping off Jasmine Guy for Kumail Nanjiani. The fact that he played a mullet-wearing, gator-loving police officer with a heavy TikTok presence, it took a lot to play this character. From the mullet to the accent to the alligator of it all, he nailed Gator Joe. Every single second, every line of dialogue, every single time he walked into a room, his sunglasses, the gator juice, everything, just 10 out of 10 for me. Unfortunately, Cynthia Erivo, Katie Holmes, and Giancarlo Esposito are still going to be in my top 3. I thought about putting Kumail at number 2, but I don't know, there's just something about that episode of Last Looks that I loved so much. I'm having trouble nudging off Katie and Giancarlo. So that said, Number 5, Jasmine Guy. Number 6, Simon Helberg. Number 7, I did put Gaby Hoffmann, who played Fran in this episode. She did a wonderful job of playing this Florida cop who ended up awarding herself with the karma she thought she deserved. Not quite as intense and insane as Gator Joe, but Gaby Hoffmann, you deserve to be on the list, so there you are at number 7. Number 8, John Mulaney. Number 9, Richard Kind. Number 10, Rhea Perlman. How would you rank the guest stars so far? Be sure to drop it in the comments and stick around for the end of each one of my Poker Face videos where I will update these rankings every week, and at the end of the season, maybe I'll do a standalone video ranking the episodes and guest stars as a whole. Next week's episode, episode 5, is called Hometown Hero, and it is about baseball. I love baseball. I'm a stage manager for the San Diego Padres, so I'm going to have a special guest joining me next week, Craig Elston. He's been a local San Diego sports radio personality, and I used to do a hit every week on his radio show where I'd recommend a TV show. He also co-hosts the Padres Hot Tub podcast, and as it would happen, one of his partners was actually a writer on Poker Face last season. So he's going to join not only for the baseball context to talk a little bit about his partner's experience as a writer on the show, and I think we're both going to have a field day with this, given that we both work in sports. And if you want to learn more about Craig, you can actually check out my top TV shows of 2024 video. We ranked our top 10 shows of the year. That was a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to having Craig on next week to talk about Hometown Hero. I am so here for the baseball of it all. I grew up a Red Sox fan. Now I work for the Padres. Give me Natasha Lyonne in her ball girl uniform all day long. All right, what did everybody think of this episode? Be sure to drop it in the comments and hit that like button. Be sure you're subscribed and stick with me for some of my other content. Like I mentioned, I'm covering The Handmaid's Tale final season. We've got 2 episodes left. Your Friends and Neighbors on Apple TV Plus, starring John Hamm. And then next month, The Buccaneers on Apple TV Plus, heavy on the love triangles. And then propelling into the summer, I Turned Pretty, another love triangle show coming in July for its final season, along with Dexter Resurrection dropping on July 11th. So lots of fun TV shows to cover this summer, and I always appreciate you tuning in. So thank you very much. I'll be back again soon. Media Melanie, clicking off.